everybody, and welcome back. I don't know about you, but wherever you are today, I hope it's warmer for you than it is here for us at the Family and Child Consultant Studio. It is freezing cold today. But look, we're not here to talk about the weather. Today we're going to talk about the stress model of crisis. The stress model of crisis explains the critical role that we play in helping young people work through crisis in a way which is a constructive learning. The actual the unit, and I suggest that you go there and get it and come back and actually watch the rest of the video. There's a number of sections of that cycle that we're going to have a look at. The first being the pre-crisis state. This is also known as baseline. It is fundamental for adults to understand the typical behaviour of the child or the client that they work alongside. The adult has to take the first step in identifying a situation which may actually lead to a potential crisis and stop to do this. Knowing how the young people or staff or the group that you operate usually conducts itself is absolutely critical. So how do they operate typically? Only by knowing each other's baseline behaviour. When we're actually not stressed out, can we identify this first phase of the cycle? This is where we can intervene early and prevent a situation from escalating through the stress model of crisis. The next section of the model you'll see is the pre-crisis state. This is where students or your clients or your participants are really struggling and experiencing high levels of stress as they attempt to cope with everyday challenges and are more likely to actually react negatively or emotionally to frustration or to the challenging situation than those who aren't stressed. The increased stress will result from a number of things. It can be from the environment and psychological factors called setting conditions. Setting conditions are situations that are present that may likely escalate a young person or the client when there is a triggering event. Because the child was already stressed due to the setting condition, the likelihood that a frustrating event or stressful interaction will result in a behavioural outburst is actually increased. So what are some of the things that you might think that you'll see at this stage? You might see that this is where a child may have failed at something. They may have failed at a test or been unable to complete a task. The child might be in a room which is in a similar colour or has a similar scent to where they had previously been abused. And the child might not have slept well before. These can all be triggering events. The next phase is the escalation phase. And during the escalation phase, there are obvious signs of increased anxiety and failure to cope effectively with the stressful situation. As the behaviours increase in duration, frequency, or manifest, the likelihood of the young person responding to intervention decreases. During the escalation phase, the young person may be threatening or behaving in ways that are recognisable signs of escalation. So have a think about it. What are some of the things that you might actually see in this phase? The child might actually become withdrawn. The child might even start to damage property. There's likely to be some yelling through this phase as well. We then move on to what we call the outburst phase. During this period of the stress model of crisis, the young person may act out aggressively, which is dangerous, not only for the young person, but for other young people and for staff working with them. Before the outburst phase, we've used requests and we've responded rationally to help them regulate their emotions. Now, as the adult, as the professionals, we must continue to try and de-escalate the situation and provide safety and protection for the young person, for the other people, and for ourselves as well. So some of the things that you might see at this stage is the young person causing injury to themselves or trying to cause injury to others. The young person might be physically assaulting staff, and the young person may have an uncontrollable behavioural outburst. We then move on and through to what's called the recovery phase. The recovery phase is the last section of the stress model of crisis. During the recovery phase, it's the adult or the professional's responsibility to provide the child with an opportunity to learn from the crisis experience. After the outburst, the child should be allowed to calm down. The body begins to calm itself naturally by relaxing the mind and relaxing the muscles. So, some of the things that we might actually see at this stage is the child starting to physically react, the child starting to actually relax, be calmer, speak in a calmer and a quieter voice. So, look, it may be really tempting to ignore different stages of the conflict cycle, especially the recovery phase. However, it's really important that we actually work with the young person to work through each stage. It needs to be done carefully, and it needs to be done in a way which promotes growth and learning from that crisis. I'll leave you now to move on and do the reading for this unit, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.